welcome to Sarah's Stampin' Retreat. Today I thought we'd create 3 cards with a quilted effect to them, and I've been gifted some really lovely new quilting dies from Spellbinders that I'm going to use. So we've got this gorgeous French braids and hexagon panels that I'm going to use first. I'm actually going to use the French braid one, I'm not going to use the hexagon panels today. And you'll see that both the French braid and the hexagon panels come in 2 parts. You've got this part that cuts out the detail and this cut part that cuts around the outside. So I use the 2 together and I cut one from the rose gold and one from, this is petal pink cardstock from Stampin'. So for this card I'm only actually going to use the inside bits of this, but I cut out the whole thing using this because then actually I can make another card that swaps them over and kind of have 2 for 1 card. I'm not going to do it in this video, but that's the reason why I cut them both out fully. I've just cut this card to 3 by 6 inches, and it's just ½ an inch bigger than this die. I actually also think that this would be really cool if you did a 6 by 6 inch card, a gatefold card, then you could have one of these panels on each side the gatefold, and that would look awesome. So you could of course cut this with adhesive sheet behind it, which I should probably have done, but as usual I forgot. I get too caught up in prepping the card, and then it's not until I come to make it that I think, oh, I should put adhesive sheet on the back of there. It'd be a lot easier, but never mind. And then I'm going to fill in all of these gaps. So I'm going to fill a lot of them with pieces from the petal pink, but the ones down the middle I'm going to fill with more rose gold glitter cardstock. And actually a lot of them are already in here, so I'm going to pop out these in the middle that I don't want to go in. And then I can place this over here, and the ones that have stayed in there I can just poke through so that they stick into the gaps. And that's just a quick and simple way to place all of those. And if you don't want to put all these pieces in, like you can see it's quite quick and simple, but if you didn't want to put them in, then you can always just leave them out. The only thing that you lose is this kind of stitch detail to it. But to be honest, the pieces are quite big and quite easy to put in anyway, so I don't think it's really a big problem. So then we've got this lovely panel that's come together really quickly, and these bits and the leftover bits from the rose gold I can use on another card. And then just to finish it off, I've just got some flowers. I've got this Bee Bold Blooms die set from Spellbinders, which if you watch a lot of my videos you'll have seen me use before. And I've just created a few of the flowers from here, so they put together really nicely. I've used the cream or ivory colour, and you've got these pieces, which is this die, you've got these on this die from the teal. I've used these for these, and then I've layered up those 3 pieces to create this with those stalks, and then this one I've just used this with one of these for the inside. And then I've got my happy birthday from the mini everyday sentiments from Spellbinders, which I have hot foiled in rose gold foil. And if you don't have a foiling machine, you can always use embossing powder instead, but I really like that look. And in case you're new to hot foiling, I'll also pop a link to a video below if you'd like to find out more. So I'm just going to arrange these flowers. So I'm going to pop some foam pads that I've just cut up onto the back of the sentiment. Then I'm going to add a little foam pad onto the back of this flower as well. And that's my first card completed. So then for my second card, I'm going to use these quilted stained glass window dies. So you can see you get this piece which cuts the flat pieces out, this piece which cuts like stitched pieces. So each of those have one of these pieces to go around it, and then you've got like a stitched banner, this piece, those pieces which go together, and then you've got these pieces as well. But we're just going to use those two main pieces at the moment. We're not actually even going to use these. So this is actually designed so that you can cut these pieces together and create pieces that you can put round into a circle or shape of your choosing. But I've chosen to actually cut them into the cardstock. So you can see I've started here. I've got some rose gold glitter cardstock. I've also got some teal cardstock. And rather than cutting the pieces out using these, I've actually cut them into the cardstock. So I've left one still to do so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm using this one with the stitched bits to cut into this rose gold, and you can line them up quite nicely. So the key things to watch out for are that you've got a nice even straight gap here and here, and then that this circle is lined up in the middle. So I'm going to stick that, and then I'm just going to turn it over and just make sure that that circle's lined up in the middle, and then I will know that I'll get a nice cut. So I'll pop that through my die cutting machine like that. And then I've got the teal, and I'm using this piece on the teal, which has slightly wider gaps between the pieces. And I'm doing exactly the same on that. So I'm just going to place this so that I've got nice even gaps on either side. And I have used 6.5 inch pieces for this. But once I have cut them, I'm going to cut those pieces down because I only want to make a 6-inch card. It's easier to get the placement if you give yourself a bit of room to cut it down, because you can see I've got slightly more gap at the top than the bottom here, so it's easier because you're only working with a quarter. It's easier to cut it a bit bigger first and then cut it down so that you know exactly where your cardstock's going to be. So then you can see how beautiful these are, and because these elements are slightly slimmer than these, I'm going to layer them up, and you'll get a very slight shadow from the teal behind the rose gold. You can make so many things with these. They'd make beautiful shakers. You could make stained glass windows with them. It's just such a beautiful set of dies. And so I've cut this piece of rose gold to 6 by 6 inches to sit on my card. I've actually cut the teal piece very slightly smaller, just so that if it needs a little bit of wiggle room, then I've got it there. So then I'm going to use the 4 kind of central pieces, these 4 pieces that go up and across, to centre this. So they're the ones that do fit exactly, and everything else just kind of like goes into place. And you can see it's a really subtle like kind of shadow behind, but it's really pretty. And then I've got a piece of this Bermuda Bay cardstock from Stampin' Up. I'm just going to add that to the front of a 6 by 6 card blank. And I'm going to glue this onto here, and you'll see from where it's been die cut, that is very slightly domed. But I'm actually not going to glue it down. I quite like that slightly domed look, so I'm just going to glue it around the edges. And then I think that's so beautiful, and I don't want to do too much to take away from it. So I've just used my rose gold foil to hot foil this thank you from the stylish script Thank You and Happy Birthday hot foil plates from Spellbinders. And I've just done that in rose gold foil onto some teal cardstock. So I'm just going to glue that onto a piece of the rose gold glitter cardstock, and I've just cut those with my layering dies, and then I'm going to use some fine pads just to pop those up. Now we've got this really gorgeous card. Then for my final card today, I'm going to use this Filigree 8-point star set, and it's a really gorgeous set that you can use in a lot of different ways. So you've got this 8-point star, which gives you the kind of plain cuts into it. You've got this one that gives like the stitched cuts into it. That's the one we're going to use today. But you also have these filigree pieces, which we're not going to use today, which are really pretty, that fit into these, so you can actually create really intricate panels with them. So you could use some of them or all of them to create the kind of pattern that you want. So those fit into there. You could create pieces where all the bits have the filigree. You could create bits where just sections have filigree. Then we've got these two swirly pieces. We've got this kind of sentiment banner piece, and then we've got this piece which you could kind of cut and put in the middle of your card or use to decorate it. But for today, I've just used these two pieces. And using these two pieces together, I take them together and put them through my die cutting machine like this. I cut it 4 times from the petal pink cardstock and 4 times from the rose gold glitter cardstock that we've been using. And so again, like the first one, I could make 2 cards from this, so I could swap and change them. So I'm going to set these ones aside for now because I'm going to use the pieces that I cut out of the inside of those as opposed to the outsides. So let me show you how these go together. I've cut a 4-inch square piece of white cardstock just to layer them onto. So the way to remember it is that the square pieces go in the corners, and then you'll find that they tessellate together to work really well. Then you can line this one up next to it. And you'll see that I cut my white piece a bit too small. I did that on purpose so that I wasn't left over with white bits hanging over the edges. So then I can start filling these pieces in. And then I think I'm going to do the pieces around the edge with the rose gold. And then it really highlights that star in the middle. So now I'm going to mount that on a 4 1/4 inch piece of the petal pink cardstock. And then I'm going to glue this onto my card front. So this is a 5-inch square Bermuda Bay card. And then I've used that Be Bold Bloom set that we used for the first card to create some flowers for here. And then I just used the Mini Sentiments hot foil plates from the first one to hot foil that thank you onto the teal cardstock with the rose gold foil. So I'm just going to pop this up on a dimensional. And then I'll just use some pieces of fine pad just to add to the back of there. Then that's my 3rd card completed. So then there are all of today's cards. I'd love to know which is your favourite in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below. You can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the description below, and you'll also find a link there to my blog where you can find a picture supply list for these projects. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.